Today we have the pleasure of talking with Mayo, the CTO of Alula Technologies. We're going to be discussing emerging trends in employee well-being, as well as the influence of preventative health measures in the workplace, an area that you're familiar with in some of the work that you've done. Welcome, Calvin.
Thanks, Nels. Looking forward to it.
Great. So I think to start off with, I thought maybe you could give us a bit of an overview of what the current trends are like in the employee well-being space. You've had lots of engagements on your side, with some of the solutions you've been involved with, and it'd just be interesting to hear what you find out there now.
So it has been a bit of an interesting shift. So the predominant way of attacking this problem for employers has been putting health insurance in place, maybe contributing to medical aid, etc., which is great, and benefits like that are definitely required, but it's very reactive, or there's no proactivity in it. Like if you look at things like blood pressure, for example, you don't know you have it until you do. Unless you go for that checkup, you don't know, etc. So what's happened in the well-being space, and I think probably a lot to do with the hybrid workforces or remote working and stuff, staying in touch with that organization as an employer has been very difficult. Health insurance and stuff isn't covering it anymore. Cross-border stuff is not necessarily the same health insurance, and it's got complicated. So with the technology we're talking about, it's taken down a lot of those barriers, and it's enabled an employer to be a little bit more proactive and put technology in front of those people and actually see what the health of their employee workforce actually is. And it's literally taken it away from insurance products and that type of thing to a benefit provided by the company investing in your well-being. So it's a change in thinking, but it's becoming a lot more interesting, let's say, to the employer now, and especially considering the fact that you can't really find one-size-fits-all stuff anymore. It's not interesting to your workforce. You've got to think differently, and a lot of employers are starting to get it.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because it's like a step into the world, and you mentioned it. The movement away from one size fits all is the expectation from employees is for the employer to better understand them and to provide them with what they need. But it's from an individual perspective. And I mean technology is the key to that. So I think moving with that as a point, how is Alula Technologies playing a role in the space at the moment?
So through our VivaScore application and the Ovation employee benefits platform, we've actually cross-pollinated the technology between the two. And having an RPPG face scan built in has enabled us now to be a source of this type of data rather than the general pharmacy checkups and those types of things. We can actually collate that data through these platforms, do the 30-second face scan, and get a lot of these metrics now, which you can fit in at any time during any part of the day, no matter where you're sitting in the world, etc. So the technology has taken away that administration thereof, that not knowing, or the having to chase people to go and do it because you're trying to do the right thing, but does it fit with everyone's schedule, etc. So the technology has taken away all those boundaries. It now becomes something that you can, at a really good price point compared to doing physical health checks and all the rest of it, get the same data and be able to implement your own interventions, if not align with a partner to do so, employee assistance programs, etc. You now know. It's no longer a case of, we don't know, let's put a program in place and hope people use it. Now you actually know, and you can act upon that data.
It's interesting, just on the point of 30-second face scan, and sort of the world of the physical health check scenario. I mean, we're all used to those drives within a company, where, great guys, it's health day, we're having nurses come out, for you to, give some bloods or whatever the case, to now, through your phone, being able to do a 30-second face scan and getting valuable health insight, like your blood pressure, heart rate variability, etc. And I mean, it's just it's a completely different world, right? It's, you know, it's a one the user can control, you know, so it's not intrusive, but it also, you know, it's easily accessible. It's efficient. It sort of ticks all those, you know, those boxes. But I just love that element of being empowered.
Yeah.
You know, you do it for yourself.
Yeah, empowered
You do
over
it.
your own
Yeah.
health and well-being, 100%.
Yeah.
And then, you know, these on-site days, you know, or, you know, brokers do them for investments and stuff, and you might do one of those types of days and stuff. Not that they're not useful, they've got very low attendance and they are considered invasive, whereas this is none of that.
Yeah.
You get more data, you get more real-time data. And it's not like you're discounting the fact that you may need to go and have an actual clinical assessment, but the early warning signs we can pick up. You don't know you have blood pressure until you do, or until you go for that checkup. Now we can tell you, you should probably go and have a real checkup. This is not looking good. And saves lives in a nutshell. You know, mental well-being being what it is today, we can get metrics on that. And then for me specifically, I have high blood pressure. Being able to know that without having to take time out of my day, go to a doctor, go to a nurse, etc. Massive.
Yeah.
Now I can actually walk into my doctor's office and ask them exactly what I want. I'm empowered with my own health data.
It's great that you mentioned some of those points that you did about sort of some of the challenges in the health space, you know, and I did some digging, you know, prior to the you know, this interview, and looked at sort of what we find out there. What are the current challenges? You know, cardiovascular disease is one of the, you know, the big ones globally. You know, I think one of the things that stood out for me is just looking at it from a UK perspective is that 40% of the population, they say, are undiagnosed, you know, which tells you the extent of the challenge. You know, people are just not aware. They're undiagnosed, and creating the ability for people to easily get a view, you know, a warning sign, you know, can be so valuable. I mean, there are also other scenarios that are, or stats that are picked up on the mental health space, as you know, as you mentioned, you know, like globally, 30% of the world's population affected by mental disorders. Again, it's another significant challenge that, you know, that we face globally. Physical activity is another. You know, it's declining. You know, as you know, as we progress. And I think something I picked up was 80% of adolescents and 27% of adults, you know, don't meet the WHO's recommended activity levels, and we know that has an impact on people's health status. You know, so all of these, and these are just, you know, some views have a significant impact. You know, and what we're looking for. And it's a world that Alula have now entered into, you know, as you've explained, is how to help people work with it and actually see and actually manage and be able to track the impact on their health. So you know, with that being said, you know, like, what is your view on how the Viva Score application and even that integration within the Ovation platform for doing digital health checks, you know, what is your view on how it can make a significant difference in that space?
So the face scan is obviously one thing, so early warning signs, like you say. But I think where it goes the next level is the personalized recommendations or nudges that we actually provide through the application. So, you know, like you say, mental well-being being an issue, we can start pushing information specific to that person, you know, from some of the sources that we've got built in, how to manage stress, taking breaks. We can even go so far as to how to use your tooling that we now know from your employer to manage your diary better and get you that space. And this talks very much to the person. You know, it's one thing to get a brochure which tells me 100 different things I can do, but what's going to work for me? Hook up your device, a new data point comes in for us. You know, we're picking up certain trends or lack of trends, let's say steps declining, which correlates with your mental well-being, etc., etc. We can personalize that and go, last week you did X, Y, and Z, and you were a little bit like this. This week it's A, B, and C. You know, just reminding you that steps are important. That's a message to the person based on his lifestyle. And that's just, that for me is next level. That's now where we're starting to get to the hyper personalization, no one size fits all, and things that matter to me at the time that I'm consuming that data.
It makes sense. I mean, and that's, you know, that's where things are heading, right? And, you know, technology being key enabler for it. You know, the hyper personalized communication, engagement, activity, like all of that sort of comes into play. You know, from an employer perspective, you know, the impact that this can have really talks to a reduction in sort of absenteeism. Also fully aware of you know, the financial impact of long-term health as well as you know, sort of short-term. What is your take on that? You know, like, do you believe that the application can really play a significant role in sort of helping alleviate some of those pressures from an employee's perspective?
Absolutely. So you don't know what you don't know, whether you're a person or whether you're an employer. Getting an insight into this type of data allows you the ability or the opportunity to do something about it. You know, some sort of actionable insight you can use. Surveys and stuff, you know, are not generally going to give you this type of information. Participation's low, etc., etc. So we pick up, for example, a mental wellness challenge within the business, high stress, you know, maybe it correlates with the review period of the year, but you know. And then what you were saying earlier, you know, you might not know that there's a number of people, although you won't know the individuals, but you will know that there's a hotspot on the blood pressure metric in your business. Target people specifically on that because they will now know as well. Have that nurse come in, do those checks, provide advice, etc. That for me is the power in it now. You wouldn't have known this otherwise, and without this surfacing to you, what are you supposed to do about it? As much as you say you care and want to show that you care, again, if you don't have the data, it's a one size fits all, and it falls into everyone's in tray and never gets looked at.
Thank you, Calvin. So I think final question from my side is just really looking ahead. You know, so what trends do you foresee in this employee preventative health space? Give us a bit of a view of your view of what the future may be like.
So the personalization aspect of this is only going to get better. The AI being baked in is getting better all the time. The technology we're using to do the face scan is getting better all the time. You know, the variance between what you might get in a clinical test versus the face scan, the gap is narrowing. So to a point where insurers are looking to use it for underwriting, reinsurers are looking to use it to manage risk. So as this technology progresses, it should hopefully become more pervasive. And the more data points you have, the better the technology will get, and the more difference we can make. You know, I've always been about platforms that can make a difference to our users or our members. It's a way better reason to get out of bed in the morning and do it other than a paycheck. So if we can keep on this path with the North Star of helping people, preventative healthcare, let's know about a problem before it happens, early detection. If we can keep that North Star, we can actually make a huge difference in the world.
Great. Thank you very much, Calvin. We appreciate you sharing your insights with us. It was a great conversation. Look forward to hearing more about these exciting developments as you progress.
Cool. Thanks. Good chat.